10 clusters of different colored flames transformed into ferocious fire beasts that slowly rose into the sky. Various colored glows landed on the stunned expressions of everyone below as they did so, causing the scene to appear exceptionally comical. The 10 types of flames, along with the earlier green lotus core flame, formed a total of 11 flames. Xiao Yan was able to control 11 flames with his own strength. The courtyard was silent as everyone watched this shocking scene. It was a moment later before some noises from the inhalation of cold air slowly appeared. Each time one controlled an additional flame, it would impose a harsh toll on one's spiritual strength. With Cao Dan's ability, he was at the most able to control 4 types of flames. Moreover, this had already allowed him to reach the point where he could hardly find any opponent within the Chao clan. Yet the current Xiao Yan allowed him to understand what was meant by there was always someone better out there. 11 types of flames. Even if Cao Dan were to use all of his spiritual strength, it was likely that he would be unable to completely control them, much less transforming them into beast forms to fight with others. Fierce flames rose into the air. The high temperature that spread down caused Cao Dan's mouth to dry. His already somewhat pale face became even paler. Xiao Yan's ability was a very big blow to him. "How is it possible?" Cao Dan softly muttered in his mouth. His eyes were filled with disbelief. Xiao Yan appeared much younger than him. How was it possible for him to control 11 types of flames? This level was something that even his sister, who was regarded as a witch in his clan, was unable to do. Impossible! Cao Dan's eyes had become much redder after he muttered that word. He appeared just like a gambling addict about to lose all of his fortune. He let out a furious roar as a thought passed through his heart. The 4 fire beasts in the sky emitted low, deep roars as they charged at Xiao Yan's multicolored fire beasts. Xiao Yan watched Cao Dan, who was going all out, with an indifferent expression. The corner of his mouth was lifted into a cold smile. He randomly waved his sleeves, and the 11 fire beasts in the sky appeared like ferocious tigers descending from a mountain as they collided with Cao Dan's 4 fire beasts, after which they began to tear and bite at each other in a crazy manner. Clusters of flames continued to scatter. Cao Dan's 4 fire beasts descended into an outnumbered situation in the face of Xiao Yan's terrifying numbers. They did not endure for long before the flames on their bodies were gradually torn apart, after which they slowly disappeared one after another in front of the many eyes in the front yard. By the time Cao Dan's last fire beast disappeared, 9 out of 11 fire beasts belonging to Xiao Yan still survived. Cao Dan's body shook when the final fire beast disappeared. His feet immediately took 2 steps back in panic. A groan was emitted from his throat at the same time. Those fire beasts contained some of his remnant spiritual strength. Hence, the disappearance of those fire beasts caused some damage to his spiritual strength. Cao Dan, who was pulling back, was hurriedly supported by the 2 elders behind him. His eyes stared at the 9 fire beasts in the sky, and his face alternated between white and green. He had never expected the bet. He had thought he was going to win, would end up with him being defeated in such a miserable manner by Xiao Yan. Xiao Yan glanced at Cao Dan. He widened his mouth and the firewolf transformed into a wisp of green-colored flames. The flames shot down before entering Xiao Yan's mouth. Those 8 other fire beasts gradually turned into nothing within a short moment. These flames, that had yet to be refined into a flame seed, could only be used once. After a single usage, they would scatter if the energy within them was not replenished. "Young Master Cao Dan, please leave." Xiao Yan withdrew the green lotus core flame. His expression was much better when compared to Cao Dan. He had practiced the flame creation skill and was extremely familiar with flame manipulation. Moreover, the strength of his spiritual strength was far from what the likes of Cao Dan could compare with. Cao Dan's expression became much uglier when he heard his command. He had lost to Xiao Yan in front of so many people. Moreover, he had lost in flame manipulation, his specialization. This was undoubtedly equivalent to giving him a ruthless slap. "All right. No wonder Ye Zhong would place his hopes on you. You do indeed possess some skill." I have underestimated you. Xiao Dan inhaled a couple of breaths of deep air. He suppressed the fury that arose from embarrassment, rising in his heart as he spoke in a dark voice. Xiao Yan faintly smiled. Cao Dan might say that he was a Tier 7 alchemist, but from the way Xiao Yan saw it, Cao Dan would, at the very most, be at the low-grade 7th tier. He could not be considered a great opponent. It would not be troublesome if Xiao Yan were to meet him at the pill gathering in the future. I have lost today. Rest assured that I will keep my word. My Cao clan will not come and find trouble for a period of time. Xiao Dan's dark and ferocious eyes suddenly turned to Ye Zhong's group after he spoke. He then continued in a dense, cold manner. However, it is merely the ravings of a lunatic if your Yi clan wishes to regain an elder's seat. My Cao clan will be unwilling to see such a thing occurring. There is still less than a month before the test begins. I want to see whether your Ye clan can rely on him to squeeze into the top 3 spots. Ye Zhong's expression slightly changed. He coldly said, There is no need for you to worry about this matter on behalf of the Ye clan. Cao Dan frostily smiled. His gaze immediately swung to Xiao Yan as he said, Xiao Yan, you are indeed very strong. However, I believe sooner or later you will end up regretting offending the Cao clan. Have you finished saying all that you need to? If you have, please. Xiao Yan crossed his fingers and faintly commanded without giving Cao Dan an additional look. Cao Dan was filled with fury because of Xiao Yan's indifferent attitude. If 2 elite Dozuns were not backing Xiao Yan up, it was likely that he would be unable to control himself and get Kuyi Zunji to attack, giving this hateful fellow a vicious lesson. You are an alchemist. I think that you will also participate in the pill gathering. At that time, there will naturally be someone from my Cao clan who will take care of you. Let's go. Cao Dan's eyes glared at Xiao Yan in a dangerous manner. A moment later, he tossed out some ruthless words before suddenly turning around. With a wave of his hand, he left this yard with a great unwillingness while carrying a body filled with fury. All the experts from the Cao clan behind him faced each other before letting out a quiet sigh and hurriedly followed. The members of the Ye clan sighed in relief when they saw the people from the Cao clan leaving in a dispirited manner. Cheers sounded as a result. The respect in their eyes as they looked at Xiao Yan also became more prevalent. Big brother Xiao Yan, thank you. Xinlan sighed in relief in her heart. Her pretty eyes looked at Xiao Yan as she spoke with some joy. Xiao Yan waved his hand and said, Since I have promised you, I will protect the Ye clan, at the very least until I have fulfilled my promise. Mr. Xiao Yan, everyone in the Ye clan will never forget the great favors you have done for the Ye clan. Please feel free to ask if there is anything you need my Ye clan to do in the future. Even though there are some things that we are unable to do, my Ye clan will try its best. Ye Zhong cupped his hands together and bowed to Xiao Yan as he spoke in an unusually serious manner. I am unworthy of such a solemn and respectful ceremony from Elder Ye Zhong. Please do not continue. Xiao Yan slightly leaned his body forward as he replied with a smile. Ye Zhong smiled when he heard his words. His eyes wandered in the direction Cao Dan had disappeared. However, there was some worry in his eyes as he sighed. From the words that Cao Dan uttered earlier, I think that witch from the Cao clan has likely returned. Witch? Xiao Yan raised his head upon hearing this, feeling a little uncertain as he did so. Ye Zhong bitterly laughed when he saw Xiao Yan's uncertainty. He asked, Mr. Xiao Yan, what do you think of Cao Dan? His character is nothing great, but he does have some skill in terms of flame control. Moreover, he is able to reach the level of a Tier 7 alchemist at such a young age. His talent is worthy of being described as a genius. Xiao Yan voiced his thoughts. Although Cao Dan was arrogant, he did possess decent ability. This Cao Dan is unable to show even the slightest bit of arrogance in front of the witch of the Cao clan, Ye Zhong softly explained. His tone contained an exceptional bitterness. If his Ye clan could produce such a person, would he still need to worry about their strength? This kind of witch was a terrifying character where she alone could be relied on to support the entire clan. Oh? Surprise flashed across his eyes. The Chao clan had such a person? This witch is called Xiao Ying. Her entire life has been filled with a legendary hue. When she was born, she already displayed a spiritual strength that shocked others. Her mother was nearly killed by the spiritual strength that spread from her. When she was 7 years old, she had formally become an alchemist. At 15, she caught the eye of the Pill Tower, and an exception was made to take her in as core disciple of the Pill Tower. She has trained quietly in the Pill Tower for 5 years. At 20, she became the youngest Tier 7 alchemist in the Chao clan. Currently, she is 22. Ye Zhong's soft voice lingered over the yard, causing all the members of the Ye clan to lower their heads in shame upon hearing this. Compared to Xiao Ying, they were merely useless people just waiting to die. Of course, they were not the only ones who reacted like this. Even Xiao Yan's face displayed a solemn expression. The Central Plains region was indeed filled with many hidden talents. If the reason he possessed the current achievement was due to a combination of both talent and effort, this Xiao Ying was likely really a little witch blessed by the heavens. Reaching Tier 7 at 20 years old. During these 2 years, she would definitely have advanced. I guess the current her... Ye Zhong paused when he spoke until this point. His face was filled with bitterness. The current her should be at least at the peak of the Tier 7 level. The entire yard was completely silent. A 22-year-old peak Tier 7 alchemist. This achievement would likely enter the top 10 even when compared with the 1,000 years of alchemist history. Xiao Ying will definitely participate in this pill gathering. According to tradition, if one wishes to slowly advance to be one of the giant heads of the Pill Tower, one must be the champion of a pill gathering. Ye Zhong sighed. This Xiao Ying is quite ambitious, therefore she will definitely not give up this pill gathering. Ye Zhong's eyes turned to the grave face of Xiao Yan and slowly said, "This girl will be a great opponent of yours in the pill gathering." Xiao Yan's expression was solemn as he nodded. If this Xiao Ying really possessed a relaxed character, it was likely that she would not like this kind of life while being on a high position. KK, but Mr. Xiao Yan need not be too afraid. The Xiao Ying might be strong, but if you were to compete with each other, no one will know just who will come out on top, as long as she has yet to reach Tier 8. Unless she has reached this level, there is no guaranteed victory. Refining medicinal pills occasionally relies on one's condition and luck. Everyone will meet with failure. Ye Zhong hurriedly laughed. He thought that Xiao Yan was worried after seeing him descend into silence. Xiao Yan slightly nodded. Tier 8 and Tier 7 were two completely different concepts. After all these years, it was likely that the only alchemist he had met who could refine a Tier 8 medicinal pill was Yao Lao alone. Xiao Yan had met some Tier 7 alchemists after having arrived in the Central Plains region. However, he had never met a Tier 8 alchemist. It was likely that even some Du Zun class experts would need to be extremely courteous to an alchemist of this tier. They would possess a position that was similar to the height Yao Lao reached in the Central Plains back then. The reason why there were so few Tier 8 alchemists clearly indicated how difficult it was to advance to this level. A Tier 7 alchemist might be able to do extremely well in the Central Plains. However, if one wanted to reach the point where even an elite Dao Zun would willingly come to be your fighter, one would, at the very least, need to reach the 8th tier. Xiao Yan withdrew from the thoughts within his heart as he smiled and said, "Relax. I will definitely do well in this pill gathering. I will do my best regardless of how strong the opponents are." Ye Zhong grinned and nodded upon hearing his reply. He said, "Mr. Xiao Yan, the test of the 5 great clans will begin in less than 1 month's time. We still need to leave for Holy Pill City in advance. Therefore, we must leave in around 20 days. This pressing schedule caused Xiao Yan to frown. Immediately he nodded. He was currently pressed for time and he could no longer waste any. However, it was fortunate that his pill refinement training had gradually progressed well. Although he had yet to successfully refine a Tier 7 high-rank medicinal pill, his chances of success when refining some low and middle-grade medicinal pills had significantly raised. With this speed, Xiao Yan sooner or later would be able to successfully refine a Tier 7 high-rank medicinal pill. All you need to do is inform me before you leave. I will rest for 1 day before continuing my retreat and practicing hard for a period of time." Even Ye Zhong involuntarily wiped some cold sweat off his face when he heard that Xiao Yan was going to continue his tortuous training. Pill refinement was an extremely tiring and troublesome matter. Based on common sense, it was impossible for even a Tier 7 alchemist to refine pills all day long. After all, this was really too exhausting. This was originally the case based on common sense. However, Xiao Yan had not only been born with a powerful spiritual strength, but he also had the help of a heavenly flame. This enabled him conserve his stamina when refining pills. Hence, if other Tier 7 alchemists could at the very most refine 3 medicinal pills per day, Xiao Yan would be able to refine 6, 10, or many more times the amount they could. In other words, his 1 day spent in bitter training was equivalent to training a couple of days by others. Of course, this kind of wild, uncontrolled training was extremely harsh. However, Xiao Yan had suffered many hardships during these years. He might not have anything else, but his character was tough after being honed all these years. The achievement that Xiao Yan possessed today was definitely not something that he had suddenly obtained. Ye Zhong felt some admiration for Xiao Yan after wiping off his cold sweat. He said in a solemn voice, "Ugh, Mr. Xiao Yan, please continue to train with peace of mind. You can just inform the old me if you do not have enough medicinal ingredients. Even if I have to exhaust the entire collection of my Yi clan, I will definitely support Mr. Xiao Yan until you have completed your training." Xiao Yan slightly nodded. He once again chatted with Ye Zhong about some matters related to the pill gathering before returning to his own room while the others returned to theirs. Xiao Yan once again entered the pill refinement room on the 2nd day after having resolved the trouble that came with the Chao clan. After which, he announced that he would undertake a retreat to engage in harsh training. Soon after, an endless amount of rare medicinal ingredients were carried out of Yi Clan's warehouse, and they were piled in the pill refinement room. Due to Xiao Yan having stepped forward, the Ye clan was temporarily no longer faced with any disturbances from the Cao clan. Additionally, the little fairy doctor and Tianhuo Zunji would occasionally show themselves. This caused the factions coveting the Yi clan to hold back a little. 2 elite Daozuns, this lineup was definitely not something an ordinary faction could contend with. Without the trouble that came from the outside world, the Ye clan became much quieter. Time gradually flowed by amid silence, appearing just like the sand seeping between one's fingers. Perhaps it was due to the approaching pill gathering, but the entire pill region became unusually lively. Almost every part of the pill region was experiencing traffic that was larger than usual. Moreover, some more observant individuals would discover that various alchemists of different ascents from various places were beginning to appear within the pill region one after another. Clearly, these people were here because of the pill gathering. The pill gathering was not only a grand event in the alchemist's world, but it was also a grand event for the Central Plains. Each time the pill gathering began, the pill region would become the focal point of the entire Central Plains region, and sometimes even the continent. Countless numbers of people or factions would swarm over like hungry wolves who had smelled the fragrance of flesh. An alchemist was the most respected occupation in the Du Qi continent. Everyone was envious of an alchemist's abilities. Some alchemists might not be strong when it came to combat strength. However, that alchemist only needed to take out a small medicinal pill in order to get experts to fight on his or her behalf and take the other party's life. Hence, everyone on the continent knew that it was best to avoid offending an alchemist, especially a high-tier alchemist. This was because these people were like a beehive. The moment one touched a high-tier alchemist, one would end up inviting an endless amount of trouble. A high-tier alchemist was also someone some factions wanted the most. In order to get one of them under their wings, many factions would issue attractive offers. There were even some factions who would end up fighting until blood flowed like a river in order to snatch a high-tier alchemist. The distinguished position of alchemists caused the pill gathering to be an exceptionally important occasion. Everyone knew that this kind of gathering would attract talented alchemists from across the continent. Those who could stand out among them definitely possessed a great strength. As long as a faction managed to recruit one of these alchemists, it would undoubtedly mean that their strength would rapidly soar. These were the reasons why so many people were coming to the Pill region. Moreover, with the flow of time, this extremely vast Pill region would likely fill with even more people who had come after hearing about the Pill gathering. While the human traffic within the Pill region was beginning to soar, the time of the 5 great clans test also approached. Everyone from the Yi clan respectfully stood outside of a Pill refinement room in the deepest parts of the Ye clan. The ones standing at the front were Ye Zhong, Xin Lan, and the few Ye clan's elders. Today was the last day before they would begin traveling to the Holy Pill City. It was also the day that Xiao Yan would finish his retreat. Xiao Yan did not even take half a step out of the Pill refinement room during these 20-something days. The hot environment within the Pill refinement room caused even some of the members of the Ye clan, who had delivered medicinal ingredients, to be afraid of staying for long. Usually, they would gently place the medicinal ingredients down before hurriedly withdrawing in silence. Dark clouds would frequently gather in the sky near the backyard of the Ye clan during these 20-odd days. There was even some lightning gathering within the dark clouds a couple of times. However, the clouds would suddenly scatter just when a bolt of lightning was about to descend. This kind of change in the sky naturally attracted the attention of Ye Zhong and the rest. All of their hearts were a little shaken. They could clearly sense the surging energy ripple emitted from the sealed Pill refining room when the Pill lightning was about to descend. This kind of energy ripple was extremely similar to the situation that appeared when some Tier 7 high-grade medicinal pill were about to take shape. Although they did not know why the surging energy ripple would suddenly disappear every time it reached a critical moment, all of them understood that this was something done on purpose by Xiao Yan. Regardless of Xiao Yan's intentions, they were able to vaguely understand something. This period of bitter training seemed to have improved Xiao Yan's pill refinement skill. Creak, creak. While various thoughts quietly lingered in the hearts of Ye Zhong's group, the tightly shut stone door was slowly opened. A great amount of heat immediately spread out from within. A skinny figure slowly walked out as the temperature rose. A moment later, he appeared in front of everyone's line of sight. The skinny figure's clothes were a little messy. His black hair was scattered around his head, and his face possessed a sparse beard. He looked quite miserable. Nevertheless, his dark black eyes were unusually bright. For some unknown reason, Ye Zhong's group vaguely felt that Xiao Yan was a little different from before, especially as they watched him walk out of the pill refinement room. This kind of change was not obvious, but it gave Ye Zhong's group a kind of strange feeling. It appeared as though Xiao Yan, who was in front of them, had become more dazzling than before he had undertaken the retreat. The little fairy doctor and Tianhuo Zunjie were also a little startled because of this change. The little fairy doctor was still fine, but Tianhuo Zunjie seemed to have fallen deep into thought. Xiao Yan was a little surprised upon seeing so many people outside the door after he walked out of the training room. He helplessly shook his head and questioned, "Elder Ye Zhong, there is no need for such grandness, is there?" KK. Ye Zhong hurriedly recovered upon hearing his words. He laughed before waving his hand and scattering the clan members who had gathered here. With a smile, he said, "Mr. Xiao Yan, we will begin our journey to the Holy Pill City tomorrow. Are you prepared?" Xiao Yan nodded. It was unexpected that time had passed so quickly during his retreat. Nearly a month had passed within the blink of an eye. "Mr. Xiao Yan, nothing is wrong with you, is there?" Ye Zhong glanced at Xiao Yan. He seemed to vaguely sense a kind of faint pressure when he was close to Xiao Yan. This kind of pressure seemed to originate from deep within his soul, causing him to find it difficult to ignore. Xiao Yan revealed an uncertain expression in the face of Ye Zhong's question. He frowned and asked, "What can happen to me?" From the way Xiao Yan acted, it seemed he was unaware of the slight change. Ye Zhong was somewhat stunned when he saw Xiao Yan's lost manner. Could it be that he was mistaken? "It is not that you are mistaken. This fellow's spiritual strength seems to have risen during this retreat. Tian Huozunzhe finally shifted his eyes away from Xiao Yan. He smiled as he spoke. Spiritual strength? Xiao Yan was stunned when he heard this. He immediately fondled his chin and mused. Now that you mention it, I seem to have suddenly found it much easier to refine pills when compared to before. Moreover, my control over the flame has become even more exquisite as well. However, can't spiritual strength only grow when one's level increases? My strength is currently still at the level of a 4-star Duzong. It is only a little more stable compared to when I had just advanced to it. Tian Huozunzhe glanced at Xiao Yan with a strange expression. A moment later, he finally raised his eyebrows and said, Looks like that teacher of yours did not inform you about matters relating to spiritual strength, but this is only natural. An ordinary person can only bend according to this exceedingly mysterious thing known as the soul. They cannot control it. Even the you only knew how to control your spiritual strength, but you do not have a deep understanding of it. Xiao Yan and Ye Zhong pondered Tian Huozunzhe's words. Xiao Yan came to a sudden but complete understanding, while Ye Zhong continued frowning. This argument was something that he had seen in some of the ancient books in the clan. Spiritual strength does not have a difference in grade, but it possesses a difference in state. Tian Huozunzhe faintly smiled and explained, Of course, very few people these days have heard this statement because this kind of spiritual state is something that most experts cannot touch over their entire lives. Do you know why so many alchemists have remained at the 7th tier all their lives? It is because of this spiritual state. Spiritual state? Xiao Yan frowned. He had really never heard of this thing. However, the soul is the source of life. Nothing will exist without the soul. If one's soul was not destroyed, one would still possess a thread of life. Anyone would maintain a healthy respect for this kind of mysterious thing. However, Xiao Yan only knew that his spiritual strength was quite strong. He understood little else. Moreover, Xiao Yan had only reached the level of a Tier 5 alchemist back when Yao Lao was captured. At that time, he was unqualified to learn about whatever spiritual state. He had lacked the teaching of Yao Lao during these few years, causing him to be completely unaware of some of the information related to peak-level alchemists. This so-called spiritual state was one of those things. What I have said is likely something that only alchemist grandmasters who have reached the 8th tier know. Otherwise, one could only find information in some ancient books. Tian Huozunzhe slowly explained. If he had not been from this era, it was likely that he would have been unable to provide Xiao Yan with an explanation. The spiritual states are divided into 4 levels: the mortal state, soul state, heavenly state, and God state. Most people, even alchemists who are below the 8th tier, remain at the mortal state. There is only slight variations in might between most people's spiritual strengths. In the past, you were at this level but just much stronger than an ordinary person. With luck, some Tier 7 alchemists may be able to vaguely touch the soul state. If a person's spiritual strength has reached this level, it will gain a certain effect. That effect is to endow a soul, providing a medicinal pill with spirituality. You should be aware that most Tier 8 medicinal pills possess a spirituality. It is due to this spirituality that enables them to reach the 8th tier. Regardless of how outstanding the pill refinement technique of an ordinary alchemist is, the medicinal pill that they create will never reach the 8th tier if they are unable to provide the pill with a spirit. Heavenly state, you should be aware that when it comes to a Tier 9 medicinal pill, its intelligence will not be any different from an ordinary person. This is equivalent to a kind of creation, the creation of life. One must not only provide it with spirituality, but one must also have the might of nature. In order to achieve this, one would need to reach the almighty heavenly state. It is likely that very few people on this continent can achieve this level. As for the D state, this only exists in legends. Even I have only heard of it. However, I think you should be aware of the top tier of the spiritual states, God tier. All that I can tell you is that this state is related to the D tier medicinal pill. The D tier medicinal pill is related to the legendary Dao Di. However, it is not known just how many people have failed to reach this state. Tianhuo Zunji's voice was regretful when he finished speaking. However, Xiao Yan's group was no longer able to sense the regret in his voice. The few of them had been shaken into a giddy state by the words Tianhuo Zunji had uttered. Other than Ye Zhong, who had some vague memory of spiritual states, everyone else, even the little fairy doctor, felt a little lost. She had just advanced to the Duzun class. In terms of experience, she was unable to compete with an old demon like Tianhuo Zunji. It seems that I have also read these theories in some ancient books. However, they did not describe it in such detail like old Mr. Yao. When I saw them back then, I thought that they were merely a fallacy and did not pay much attention to them. Ye Zhong finally recovered after a while. He spoke in a somewhat vexed manner. My Ye clan ancestor was also a Tier 8 alchemist back then. However, he did not leave behind any information regarding spiritual states. The soul is an extremely mysterious existence. Some alchemists would be at a complete loss even if they broke through because of a lucky opportunity. Tianhuo Zunji glanced at Xiao Yan and said, "The previous you did not have the qualification to come into contact with this information. I originally thought that your teacher would have told you about it. However, seeing your appearance, it seems that I inferred poorly." Xiao Yan bitterly laughed and explained, "I was merely a Tier 5 alchemist when teacher fell into the hands of the Hall of Souls. How could I come into contact with such information?" Your current spiritual state seems to have touched the soul state. When you can enter the soul state will depend on how blessed you are. It is rumored that there was a special training method for training one's spirit during the ancient times. It is called soul technique. However, it has clearly been lost because even I have never seen anything about the so-called soul technique. Tianhuo Zunji laughed. The spirit can be trained? Xiao Yan immediately cried out in surprise upon hearing this. His face was filled with disbelief. On the current Douqi continent, one's soul could only be strengthened along with the increase of one's might. Alternatively, one could consume some natural treasures, but being able to train it through a training method was something that Xiao Yan had never heard of. I have already said that it was during the ancient times. Tianhuo Zunji rolled his eyes as he replied. Xiao Yan bitterly smiled and shook his head upon seeing him roll his eyes. Training one's spirit. This was really a little too unbelievable. Xiao Yan was not too interested in whatever soul state. His crazy pill refinement during his retreat had caused his head to remain in a semi-conscious state, which resulted in some Tier 7 high-grade medicinal pills failing despite having a chance to succeed. However, he felt that something was not quite right now that he thought of it. He had clearly sensed that he had become a little more familiar with refining Tier 7 high-grade medicinal pill. Looks like I will need to find an opportunity to study it properly in the future. If I wish to advance into the 8th tier, I will need to comprehend these so-called spiritual states. Xiao Yan mused in his heart. Tianhuo Zunji's words had undoubtedly opened a new world for him to explore. Only now did he understand that the soul was related to the advancement beyond that of a Tier 7 alchemist. No wonder there are so many Tier 7 alchemists, while Tier 8 alchemists are so rare. It is likely that some Tier 7 alchemists are not aware of the so-called spiritual states. However, it would be best if I am able to obtain a kind of soul technique that enables me to train my soul. With this thing, I should be able to advance to the soul state in a much smoother manner. Unfortunately, it has already been lost. Xiao Yan's heart was filled with regret when he thought about this. The loss of these soul techniques might be the main reason why the current generation of alchemists had difficulty advancing to the 8th tier. I wonder if the Pill Tower possesses a soul technique. By being able to become the holy ground in the hearts of a countless number of alchemists, it is likely not an ordinary place. Hopefully, I will be able to obtain some news regarding a soul technique on my trip to the Holy Pill City. Who knows when this kind of thing will appear? Xiao Yan sighed. He had made up his mind. During this trip of his to the Holy Pill City, finding a soul technique would be an important task.